This time on Captain Castle's laboratory, we're working on a very large carousel for Mr. Christmas. As you can see, with the camera zoomed all the way out, it is just the top is bigger than the screen. This is the Mr. Christmas flag carousel. It doesn't work. I unplugged it just because I don't know what's wrong with it. I know when I plug it in, it's completely dead. There's no lights, sounds, motion, nothing. So to prevent any damage, since we don't know what's wrong, I'm just going to unplug it. It came with two adapters, the original, and this one's a brand new one. It's plugged in. The new one has a shorter cord, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. The person that shipped this in also sent it with the newest adapter, and then they also picked up a gear and belt kit from Happy Holiday Parts. So this thing is pristine. Apparently it's never been out of its box or used, and when it's taken out of the box and plugged in, it's completely dead. Kind of odd, but it is very possible. Heat can do damage, moisture. So this thing has, according to the promotional ad for this carousel, 150 LEDs. And the biggest issue is most Mr. Christmases come apart from the top. These light up, which means there's wires running through them, which means you can't really disconnect them very easy. And they are connected to the characters, as you can see. It's funny, I'm moving this one, and this one's moving to these two and these two, which indicates to me that they share tracks, or they share a bar, a pivot bar. I'm going to tip it sideways so you can get an idea what it looks like from the side if you've never seen this piece. So everything in here lights up. Like, this is their biggest lit carousel. And apparently when it came out, it was on sale for $250. It's an expensive carousel too. It's actually in really nice shape for not being used, of course, but it's really big. It's one of their biggest ones they have. It's not the biggest, it's just in the category. I can't find a lot of information on this piece other than the sales ads from when it came out. So most Mr. Christmas, we start here and we work our way down. I'm still going to start here and see if I can see anything inside. So I'm going to wiggle the cone. Well, before I go that, I believe it either has a broken belt or a broken gear or two, because if you know anything about these animated pieces, you should not be able to spin them freely. And you see how much play this has? Now it does get stuck here, and it does get stuck here. That is a lot of play. Most of them only move like this. This thing is moving 30 degrees. It's actually pretty excessive. So, and you can go a little further if you try, because what you're doing is you're moving the characters. You can see the flags going up and down. You can see like this one moving. So that's usually an indicator of something's broke. Usually that's a gear. Alright, so back to this. Because of its age, it's very possible this will pop free, but I don't think this one's going to. Maybe. Got some movement. There we go. Now it just spins. Alright, that's not budging, so this may not come apart from the top. So let me take a look at the bottom. So on the bottom of the big disc, there are no screws. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 underneath the lip. That screw up in here. they don't appear to touch this. They appear just to hold on this bezel. Just want to get a kind of funny that I was asked about this piece and it showed up, and then since it showed up, I've had multiple people ask me how to take this piece apart. So, I don't know. I've never seen one with all the flags. Usually the flags are missing because it's just glued on fabric. And two, I've never had one to work on. So this will be a learning experience. This is moving, but it doesn't want to come out. Normally there's little protrusions to help hold it in place. Those protrusions also grab the fabric so it keeps it taut while the glue cures. Feels like it's lifting and then it doesn't. I'm just peeking under the cover and see if I can see anything. Because it's bigger than the camera lens, there's the gap. I'm just lifting the gap and looking underneath. So the gap I'm referring to is I'm just using the spudger, and I'm flexing it and then looking in the crack with the flashlight. Now you can see through this if you do this. The white plastic will let the light shine through. I'm going to take these bottom screws off. These pieces here are actually held on from the top. It just happens to be that these screws coincide. They're just next to each other, so it goes screw from the bottom, screw from the top, screw from the bottom. They're staggered, but the ones from the top go through the brown plastic, the ones from the bottom go through the white plastic, and there are standoffs on this cap. So I'm gonna remove these and see if I can get some movement on this piece. Now I just need a fine screwdriver that I can fit up inside there. That'll fit between the base and the inside lid. Let's see, that one fits, but it's the wrong tip. That's not the right one either. That one might be. this is going to take a moment. So underneath are these little screws. You can see where the tip is white, where it's dug into the plastic. And now I bet you this moves more. Yep. So definitely need to take these screws out. Like I said, there's 8 of them. So 1 down, 7 to go. Stubby screwdriver will work. This is a standard length electronic screwdriver, which is 6 inches long, and it fits between the deck and the inner top with about a 1/2 inch of clearance. So. That screw is not the same as the others I just took out. Interesting. Neither is that one. That one's so I got 2 that are long and 2 that are short out of the 4 I've taken out. That's strange. I wonder if they ran out of screws at the factory or if there's a reason. I won't know till I get it apart. Why we got different length screws. Normally they're always the same. Let's see. That one's a long. That one's a long. So we're 6 screws in. We got 4 longs, 2 shorts. Almost done. That one's a long. Now this one screw here doesn't want to come out. So number 7 is putting up a little grief here. Number 8 came out, but number 7, there we go. Now number 7's coming out. So from where I started, it went long, long, short, short, long, 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 which is strange. Really, really strange. But yes, you do have to remove those screws to get the top to move. Now I can see inside. So the whole top lifts up to the height of the flags, of course. Now, how do we get the rest of this thing apart? Yeah, taking that center out would be absolutely useless. That's why it just spins and there's no resistance. And prying doesn't do anything. There's a lot of wires in here, a lot of circuitry. But then again, 150 LEDs. It was its selling feature. There has got to be a way to separate the drum from the base. I'm wondering if there's a bolt on the bottom. So I'm going to take a peek with the flashlight and see see what I can see. So, let me show you how far I've gotten in 15 minutes of doing this. Here's your insides. So, set her down. I've heard you can pull the flagpoles out. No, you can't. There's a wire. I want to try and get this so you all can see what I can see. See this wire? That's all the slack you got. So this end of the wire, which I'm going to try and tip this a little bit. There you go. Goes down into the unit. This end of the wire goes up into the light. So you don't have a lot of slack. But there is a big nut in the dead center that, like all Mr. Christmas has, for the rotor assembly to hold the rotor together. And that's as far as you can pull this for multiple reasons, mainly the flags. The secondary would be the wiring. And so I'm going to slide this over. And what I'm going to look at is on the bottom, look at this big black disc. So on a lot of the pieces, even though you don't have to take it apart this way, that nut on the top, there's a similar nut on the bottom. It's a hollow tube. It's kind of like the lamp tubes, the long threaded, if you're ever taken apart a lamp or rebuilt an old school lamp that has a long threaded tube the wires feed through. It's similar to that, except that it's not a lamp tube. It's an actual metal tube that's shaved in steps to handle the different pressures of the carousel. But the wires run from top to bottom because the circuit board's in the bottom. So this little rubber disc is glued in. So I'm just going to slowly pry it off. It's not glued all the way around, which is amazing. It's mostly glued just on one side. It's a self-adhesive rubber disc on this one. Ugh. So you can see where the adhesive actually stuck. There, a little bit here, and just a whole bunch right here, but the self-adhesive. If you lose this, you can buy that self-adhesive foam from Michael's, Hobby Lobby, cut out a circle and stick it right back in. Or if you don't care, then you don't do that at all. This is the bottom. So on the bottom, we do have a nut. Same nut as the top. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wires going through the center. It is recessed 4.5 inches in. So getting that's going to be fun. There are no screws on the bottom, and I see no other screws anywhere else. So main reason I'm taking my time and not going super quick is this is basically brand new and there's no damage, and I'm trying my damnedest not to do any damage to this. So I'm looking for any clues on how to dismantle this. It has a secret, I just need to find it. Very intriguing to look inside here. If I can get this top off, you'll all get to see it too if you haven't opened one of these in the past or broke one by accident and took it apart. How they do it. The design is amazing. I can see the rotor disc. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks. Interesting. Most rotor discs just have 2, a hot and a not. This one has 6 tracks. I wonder if it's got 6 rotor points. But lifting it up, this little spring fell out of it right here, and I don't know where the heck the thing came from. There it goes. It rolled under the unit. Itty bitty. It fell out of the top, so something broke for that to come out. And looking inside, I don't see anything with that size spring, so I don't even know where that came from. There's a lot of springs in here. I mean, I can see just looking from this edge 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 springs, and I'm only looking at about 60% of the whole top. So I have no slack on these 6 wires either, so even if I get that nut off, I can't move the bottom. If you watch different episodes of Captain Carousel's Laboratory, you'll see that when I pull carousels apart, I can pull out the slack in the bottom. That's usually what this black disc covers, is the excess slack. And this, looking inside here, it's soldered directly to the board. Goes right through the groove up inside here, and up here you can see where it goes immediately. It bends. Well, I can see it. You can't yet. And then it's soldered to its different points. There is no slack in these wires, but they had to assemble this somehow. I just have to figure out how they assembled it so I can reverse it. This is why sometimes when I do repairs, they take hours upon hours, and that's why sometimes I pause the video for, well, for you guys it's a second. For me it could be a day or two while I study the piece and figure it out, because my objective is to fix it and not make it worse. So I definitely want to repair it correctly. But this one is a conundrum. How did they do this? And what I do notice is these flags, they don't go up and down. They're not attached to anything but the lid. See how they come up with the lid? There's no straight throughs, which indicates to me that maybe these would slide off, but this shaft goes all the way through to the animal. When I lift this up and look inside, there is no separation in the shaft that I can see. Oh, never mind, there is a separation in the shaft for the wires. I see it, just a different angle. Yeah, you can't see it unless you're looking at it from this side. So scratch that, I'm wrong. You would think these just slide out, and they might actually. You know what? Let me see. Put my flashlight in there. they have a plastic retaining clip, and I can kind of get the bar to move inside. If you pull straight up, the plastic retaining clip goes into a hole, which then compresses the retaining clip. So I was trying to hold it down with the screwdriver and twist it to see if, not a lot, you don't have much twisting because of the wire. But this plastic retaining clip is, well, doing its job. It's retaining it very well. I'm not gonna lie, they did a smoking job on this one. How did they do this? Wait a second. Maybe the flag comes off. Not the flag pole, but the actual flag. Ha! There it is. That's how you do it. So the flags come off, not the poles. And if anybody has this piece and they've already done this, and they're probably yelling at their screen going, yeah, didn't you know that? Nope, never worked on one before. I've only seen them in the wild and displays, and I've never taken one apart. I said I have seen them before, but excuse me, they're sometimes missing their flags. They have the little things on the top, but they're missing the actual fabric with the fleur-de-lis on them. So there is an epoxy putty glue, might be hot glue. It's sticky though, so I don't think it's hot glue. That does hold the flag. So I'm holding the shaft. I'll try and do this one on camera since I keep again forgetting this thing is bigger than the view. And I'm just twisting the plastic ball because the plastic ball is actually glued to the flag. And I'm just walking it off. So twist it back and forth while applying upwards pressure. And this ball, it has a plastic tailpiece. There you go. 3 down, 5 to go. I'm not gonna lie, this is really tough on your fingers. This isn't a round ball, it's a ball that's got flat sides, and it really presses on your, like, pressure points of your thumb and finger. Oh, that one has no pressure. Well, now it does. Now it's at the top. These are tight enough, you shouldn't have to glue them back on. But if you do, I would not use anything strong like super glue. I would probably maybe a dab of hot glue and then slide it down, or even something that bonds but cracks easy, like clear nail polish. It's usually used for metal, but it might do the same thing. It'll act like a lacquer. It'll hold it, but you can break it free with a little force. I'm not sure I'd want to heat these up because they're plastic rods. Also, you might discolor the fabric of the flag. This is some weird glue. He said it's sticky like snot, and it's but it's hard. It might be a type of hot glue. It's not resin. If it was resin, I wouldn't be able to break them free. That one came off easier. All right, one more flag and we'll get the top off. There we go. Excess glue. I don't want the glue to get caught on the fabric, so when it has this glob, I'm just taking it off so when I lift the top it doesn't get on the fabric and make it look like crap. Okay, there we go. So this can't go very far because it's got a wire. So I'm gonna try and rest it right here. All right. So here's the innards. Still not sure where that little spring came from that fell out when I tipped it. So it's an itty bitty spring, and all the springs I see are rather large. So there's the motor. There's the distribution board from the main board in the bottom. Here's our incoming wires from the bottom. I told you there were 6. Here they are. Red, blue, white, green, yellow, and brown. Black. Sorry, black. So there's the nut that holds it all together. Here's the motor, which has an integrated circuit board, which is rather unique. It's got also multiple switches on here. Most Mr. Christmases have like all year round and Christmas, and then press the button and it skips to the next song, and a volume control. This has extra switches like steady burn, flash, rotate only. So this has a lot more functions. But the little thing I saw on it, it was our flagship Carousel. So now it doesn't work when I add power. Now, if you watch other videos like Lee Max, usually that means you have a shorted motor. So I'm going to unplug said motor. The hot glue didn't stay stuck. So I'm going to unplug the motor. And I'm going to plug this thing back in and see if it works. So what it says on the switches is 9 volts in, which is the power port, 1.2 amps or 1200 milliamps. The next switch says steady or songs. The next switch says, flashlight. Oh. Sorry, it says steady or unison. Then the next switch says year-round songs or Christmas songs. Press button for new song, volume, amber light or colored light. So we got a lot more switches. Still have nothing. Nothing functions. But what I don't see is an on-off switch. Alright, well, this unplugs. There's the plug. You see it right there dangling against the white. So let's get this out of the way so it's easier to work on. Set it right there. It plugs in right here. So here's your switches. Power, switch, 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 and switch. But what I don't see is a power switch. Nothing all the way around. This is the volume. I had it in the on position, so if that also acted like a power, it would do something. At least I hoped it would. So the problem might be a little bit more extensive. Nothing. I'm just going to see if we got power coming up to the top here. No. I have no power going to the motor. I have no power going to the lights. I have 1 volt. On this plug here, which is what powers the board. Nothing. Double check this one more time. Nothing. So I'm not getting any juice. That's not a good sign. Let's check this board here. Also, let's check to make sure we're actually getting good power. 9.45 volts from the new plug. Volts from the old plug. I'm going to use the old plug, not because it's a different voltage, because I have a longer wire. So I can manipulate it better. There we go. Nothing. 1/3 of a volt. 1/5 of a volt. Nothing. 1/2 a volt. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this. Just notice that's cut. That red wire is cut flush. So they must have done it at the factory because there's no wire in here. It's just lying around. And that's a clean cut. So, and the wires that come up are all soldered to the board right there. So anyhow, I'm gonna pull the rotor disc off. So I'm gonna unplug these, like so. And just so I don't forget, I shouldn't, I'll mark them. So the one with the cut wire was in the first port, which now both have a black mark. The second port is nothing, and the third port's the motor. So you got a 3, a 3, and a 2. So that's why I only marked one. that's where the little spring came from. I'm not going to be able to turn this upside down because there's not enough wire, but I'm going to try and tip it. The belt's good. So you see you have 3 springs there, 2 springs here. The 3rd spring was right there, which is weird because there's no pin in there for the spring. Why would they put one in there? But that's the side of the spring that's sitting over there for the rotor. So it has 6 grooves, but they're only using 5, which is fine. You know, they don't have to make a special disc for it. They just don't. That's probably what the red wire was for. Red wire probably went to that one, but not on this unit. They still got the dielectric grease. There's no corrosion, no green, no verdigris of any sort. So we're good there. How much slack does it? Next thing I'm going to do now is I have to lift it. I want to see the circuit board inside. To do it, you would have to desolder the wires from this guy, but I'm hoping there's enough slack in the wiring that I can lift it high enough to see. I'm going to do it sideways so I can control like that. The components don't look bad. There is something on the board. I don't know what it is. It's white, almost like corrosion, but I don't know. There is corrosion on the red contacts for, I don't know where they go, because, oh, they go up to this thing up here. There is corrosion on the board. That's never a good sign. Let's see, the board is held in with 1, 2, 3 screws. Do I have enough play to get in here with a stubby screwdriver? I can pull this down a little bit more. There we go. Now I just gotta find my stubby screwdriver. I haven't used it in so long, I don't know where I put it. Found the stubby blade screwdriver. That does me no good. So it's a thumb screwdriver. You see how small it is with a little bit in it. See if I can get in here and unscrew the 3 screws. You have 3 inches. This is the space that I have. I get my hand in there and then get this little stubby screwdriver in here. We're going to unscrew these screws. Alright, there's one. there's 2. And number 3. Alright, so there's only 2. The one in the middle holds the heat sink on, so let me put that one back on real quick. The heat sink for the power regulator. So 2 screws, diagonal opposite ends of the board. The middle screw that's off center is not to hold the board down, it's to hold the heat sink to the board. So we have 1 big resistor, 4 capacitors, a voltage regulator, and a blob chip. And there's corrosion on the pins of the blob chip. Yee! That's never a good sign. The capacitors don't appear to be leaking. They're not bulged. But now that I have more room, don't know what all this white stuff is. It's everywhere. It looks like corrosion. It's like a powder. It's not only on the circuit board. When I say everywhere, it's just on the circuitry. It's not on the plastic or the rollers. But we have it on the output bus. It's on the pin labeled, well, several pins, but A6, A6, there's 2 A6s. It's on the push, the steady, the unison, the Xmas, the year in 3V3, and the grounds, and the collection yellow are fine. But the other ones I labeled A6, A6, push, steady, unison, Xmas are all corroded. Then on this side of the PCB, it's R26, R18, R19, R23, 24, 25, C10, C3, and R28 are all corroded. And over here, the red, which doesn't exist, it's not solder, but the red corroded, the yellow's corroded, the green's corroded. On the next solder set of pads, it's B1, which has nothing hooked to it, which is fine. And that's it. So yeah, there's some weird corrosion growing on this board. It's on the outer edges too. It's not like it's in the center. The center is clean. Except for C13. It's a little ways in, but there's corrosion on the capacitor for C13. Now when I look at the other side, where the blob chip is, we have 2 sets of bus bars that go down both sides. And the outer set, every single pin has this white crap all over it, this powdery stuff that looks like corrosion. The inner pins are all good. The outer pins aren't. And there's no corrosion on the capacitors. There's no corrosion on the power regulator. There's no corrosion on the resistor. I don't see any. Let's see, there's another circuit board up here which controls all the switches. And they're all covered in glue. They actually sealed the solder connections, which is good. So that's nice. But yeah, I don't see any corrosion looking through the hot glue. Nothing on the solder joints. So I'm wondering if it's a bad power, meaning there's no power from this port to the circuitry. I gotta trace it because it's balled up and then it disappears under this circuit board that holds all these switches. It's just one big PCB in a crescent moon shape. I might have to unscrew it and pull it out if I can't get my meter in here. But probably going to take a toothbrush, not currently in use, or not used for teeth, let me rephrase that, because it's used for alcohol, and put alcohol on it and clean these pins. Maybe it's bridging and it's shorting out, which is bad because the blob chip doesn't like that. The speaker, there's no corrosion on the speaker leads, which is over here. Here's your speaker. So, yeah, quite interesting. Not the easiest thing to work on. And let's just check this guy. Yeah, all the soldered connections were covered in hot glue when they glued this to the plastic. There's no corrosion. The only one that has no wire on this, because like I was telling you down here, the labeling up here, it says call, yell, B1, B2, 9V, 5V, and the other one I can't tell because when they soldered it, they melted it. It's a black wire. It's probably ground. I bet you that's supposed to be a G underneath the melted section. It's not melted from the system. It's melted from the solder, you can tell. So anyway, call, yell, B0. Call, yell down here are good. 9 volt and 5 volt. I thought it was 2 9s. It's a 9 and a 5. They're both corroded. That might be why we don't have power up top. We got B0 and ground. Ground down here is fine. I don't see a B0. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's clean. B1 is corroded. B0 isn't on that side of the board. At least they labeled them. But it's funny. I mean, yell, Y-E-L, I would assume would be a yellow wire. It's a green wire. Ground's a black wire. And a blue wire. Got 2 different grounds. Because there's 2 different voltages. We got a 5 volt and a 9 volt. So what I thought was A6 and A6 is actually 9 volt and 5 volt. It's just upside down. We got a max, a min, and a mid that don't have anything hooked to it. Anyway, so we're an hour in, and all I've been able to do is get her open and read you what the circuit board says. So, not much progress. Slide this in a little. That way it can rock and I don't have to worry about it rolling off the bench. And I'm going to do some checking on it. I'm going to grab the alcohol and a toothbrush and I'm going to clean this circuit board, let it air dry. Probably tomorrow I'll voltage test this thing to see the power coming in, make sure it transfers through. I might have to take this circuit board off up here, transfers through, and see where I'm losing my power, because I'm getting no power up top. Well, I was getting 1 volt, but apparently I should be getting 5 and 9, not a half and 1. So somewhere between here and here we're losing power, or somewhere between here and here we're not getting any power. I'm hoping, because it's never been used, that it's maybe a solder joint has failed on this circuit board, which is where the power comes in. It's broken up between the switches and then it's transferred down to the main board. This is just the input board, because this is your controls, and then this board controls the unit based on what you do here. This is the one with the brain, and this is your control, your access. If there's a computer, This would be your keyboard. This would be your motherboard. This would be your graphics board because these control your lights here and here. And then, of course, your lights would be your monitor that you can see. So if we're using it in computer terms, that's how this is set up. So hopefully the keyboard part, your control, is where the problem's at. Because all these components are usually replaced. If it's on the main board, capacitors are usually replaced. All the other stuff is going to be really hard, if not impossible, to replace. Even the power regulator can be replaced. But the other chips are surface mount, and there's a lot of them. The surface mount are small. And yeah, I don't know if even some of these are available. I can't read, even with the magnifiers, the amplifier chip. I can't read what it says. I don't know if it's available, if it's bad. I won't know until we get power to everything. Amplifier chips will make the speaker work. Gives you the sound that comes out of the blob chip. It amplifies it so the speaker actually has volume. So that way when you adjust this, you can actually hear what it's doing and you're good to go. So anyhow, so I'm going to leave it here for now. Since it's been an hour, I'm going to take a break from it for a few minutes. Actually, probably tomorrow, since it's 9 o'clock p.m. And then I'll, with fresh eyes and everything, we'll take a look at it and clean it, power test it, and see if I can figure out why we have no power. I know she sent the belt and the gear rebuild kit, but the belt's good and the gears look fine. I'm still concerned about how much slack it has, but I noticed that when I went to go break this nut loose with the pliers, it wasn't tight. The pliers, I could have spun up my fingers. I didn't test it because usually they're always tight. And that might be why the bottom was so flexible, is because it had been unscrewing. And when it's unscrewing, it's disengaging from the gear and it'll rotate. So I don't think there's any problems with the gears or the belt. I think our problem is going to be electrical circuitry. So we'll go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this for now at the 1 hour mark since we started. And we'll go from there. So I will be back from your world momentarily, in my world tomorrow. Okay, it's another day and we're back working with this flag carousel. So I took the meter and tested the power points on this little circuit board. And so it's going to be kind of hard to see, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and zoom the camera in and point to it with probably my meter probe since it's small. But I think I found the problem. Well, I'm pretty sure I found the problem. Let's see if I can zoom this thing in. Now will it focus? Yes, there we go. Alright, so I'm going to rotate the board. So this is your hot. This is your negative, or as I like to say, hot and not hot and not hot. So this outer track goes all the way around to here is your hot track. So I have power at this stud, this stud, this stud. They're not studs, they're solder pads, but I'm just going to use stud because it kind of, you know, sounds cool. That one and that one. But I have no power on this one, which is weird, right? Because it goes all the way through. I don't see a broken track, meaning I don't see it torn anywhere in here. Move my phone so it's vibrating on my desk here. And I have no continuity. So on continuity, you put your meter on ohms and it tests the resistance between points. So if I test from here to here, it tells me it's like 0.2 ohms because this is soldered on the other side as a straight bar. It's just a jumper on the other side. But if I test from like here to here, it's the same thing. But when I start testing through the switch, the resistance goes up. But I have no resistance in here. So I'm thinking, okay, I got a bad potentiometer, but that doesn't make any sense because here's the break. So you see this gap right here? When I rotate this switch, which I'm going to try and do on camera and not block it with my fat fingers. See how it closes? So it's a rotary switch, and that's what disconnects the power. So if I close that rotary switch, my resistance, of course, from here to here shows I got resistance because I made contact right here. But I still have nothing on this pad. And I'm going to try and turn this, and that's because, I don't know if you can see, the pad, I can get my, isn't attached anymore. So somehow, and there's a little discoloration, it might be, and this is from me, this isn't corrosion. I sanded, there's a coating on these pads because they're so thick. There's a thin, I don't want to say epoxy, but like a varnish. So I took a piece of sandpaper to sand this pad down. That's why it's not the same texture as these. And the focus just doesn't look so good. It's like focusing over on the side here. Let's see if we can make it a little clearer, moving it away. It's picking up the reflections on this. But anyhow, so I sanded this, and of course the sandpaper rubbed the edge of the circuit board. So that's all that is. I just took off some of the green paint. So anyway, there's a little bit of discoloration right in here. You see that discolored dark area? Then there's a discolored clear dark area right here. So this pad got hot and separated the track. Now, why did the pad get hot? Was it a bad solder joint and it just failed over time? This one's concerning me too because it has the same discoloration, but it's not separated. It's still soldered, and I can't get my probe underneath it whatsoever. Anyhow, when this separated, it took this green track right here is no longer attached. It ripped it right here, right where you see that lighter color. So there's a couple ways to fix it. This whole track is hot, so you can sand off, scrape off the coating to this whole track and just run the solder from here onto this track. Like I said, this whole outer track all the way around is hot, and you can see how thick it is because this is the incoming power. This is the main power, so it's a fatter track. When the power branches off to the lower voltage components, because this is a dual voltage, it's 9 volts in, but it has a separator, an isolator, or a regulator, however you want to refer to it as, that takes it from 9 volts down to 5 volts for some of the other components. So these tracks that are thinner don't carry the main brunt of the power. So this thicker track is what carries the 9 volts at the full 1, it's like 1 or 1.2 amps. 1.2 amps. So that's why it's a fatter track. So if I scrape this and then flow solder onto it, I should have power and continuity, which means this might actually start working again. Or if you don't have the ability to scrape it or the patience, you can connect to this solder pad and run a wire or a solder bead. But that's a very thin pad. You can see it's about 3/4 the diameter of this. I'd rather just scrape this and then flow it. Even if I flow it from here all the way around to here, that's fine. I just want to make sure I have a good healthy amount of solder that adheres appropriately so it can transfer the electricity. Another option is you can solder a small piece of wire and jump it over to here. You can use just something like that. You can scrape off all the insulation and just lay it down as a solid and solder it that way too. You see that a lot on circuit board jumpers or circuit board repairs. Matter of fact, this circuit board already has one, which I was telling a second ago. Let me see if I can rotate it while still in the zoomed in state. And it's right here. So that's a resistor symbol, but there's no resistor. Here's your jumper. It's just a solid bar that they soldered through, which jumps from here to here. So this mechanism in here, or the switches and so on, may have been used for something different that required that resistor that's supposed to go here. And this one doesn't have it. I'm going to try and zoom out now. There we go. Let it refocus. So now I do have the motor disconnected. So technically, if I fire this thing up, solder this and fire it up, the only thing that should work is these lights, because I have everything on the top unplugged. So these lights won't work and none of these lights will work. And the motor won't work, which is good, because on its side, the way it's sitting, I do not want that motor spinning. It can do damage to the mechanism, the plastic, the gears, and so on and so forth. Also, with this top, with this coming down, the rotor isn't touching. So the rotor can't power anything up here anyway. So everything from the rotor down would have power. So I should have music and I should have barrel lights. And that's all. If that's the only problem. I'm still concerned about the corrosion. The white powdery corrosion. There's really nothing on this board. It's just on the main board that was there. Don't know what it is, but maybe it didn't affect anything. Maybe it's just dust from the nylon that fell down and adhered to the board due to heat and humidity. I don't know. It's white. It doesn't have any conductivity that I could tell with the meter, but that doesn't mean anything when it gets hot. So I got my soldering iron on, but not warmed up. First thing I need to do is start scraping off the green and seeing if that solves our power issue. And so you can see how big this gap is, and this worked wonders. So if you have like a small 1/4-inch ratchet, you could get in here and do the same thing. There's many tools that you can do it. I just didn't want to disassemble the whole top and pull the barrel off and desolder all these wires up here, because you have to desolder and remove that circuit board to pull the barrel off. If you watch my other videos, most of them just have 2 wires, a hot and a negative. This one, because it's got 2 voltages, has multiple sets of wires, plus you have a steady burn pattern and a flashing burn pattern, so it's got different wires for different computer chips, since we got computer chips in the bottom and computer chips in the top, because there's a circuit board over here on the bottom from the perspective of the camera that also controls things, which also has another chip on it. So very fancy unit for what it is. So I thought their Grand Carousel would have been their most fancy, but apparently I am wrong. It's going to probably be this Flag Carousel. I've heard some mixed reviews on it, doing research on failures, which most of the responses I got was, if it doesn't turn on, it's garbage. Okay. But outside of that, a lot of people like this piece. It is kind of an interesting looking piece. I would really like to see it lit up in person. I did see it light up on the advertising on the web. So, but I heard from a few different places that it's it's the quality should have been better. And that's subjective, which pretty much anything technically is subjective. But I don't know. Doesn't seem that bad. I think it's probably slightly overcomplicated for what it is, but that's here nor there. Again, that's subjective. So we're gonna do what we can to get her working. My soldering iron warm up for a second. I will be right back because there's somebody at my door, and then we'll solder this and see if it turns on. Okay, soldering iron's up to temperature. Ironic, it's parts to fix more Mr. Christmas that showed up. Now threw that out my door. Mr. Christmas and Department 56. So. Alright, so I did scrape it. You can see. You know what I am going to do? Just because of its... before I solder it, I'm going to put some flux on it. Help soak in the new solder. So I'm the flux from the pin all the way over to the pad that I scraped down with sandpaper. Let's get the tip wet. There we go. Alright, well that's going to be an issue. Solder needs something to support the circuit board. I think I have an idea. The circuit board's moving on me, but what I'll do is I'll stick it out and kind of pinch it so that way I can actually solder it and not have my solder stick. Let me solder back. There we go. There we go. Now I got a solder bridge. And now we'll make sure we're not touching anything. And we'll give it power and see if it lights up, kinda, and sounds for the first time since I've gotten it. So, switch is in the off position. No lights in the bottom, but we had music. That's better than it was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in everything but the motor. Where's the motor at? Motor's right here. What's that one? So I want to see if we can get lights working. Well, I'm going to try. I'm just going to plug these in and see if we get anything up top to do anything. I'm not going to plug in the motor. I know the rotor is not hooked up, so I won't have everything. But I want to see if we got lights. Okay. Start again. No lights. Probably because of the rotor. Okay. Let's see. This one here. This one's Christmas songs. So apparently I was wrong in the barrel. You know what? I'm not going to talk over that. So apparently I was wrong on the barrel. A lot of them, the barrel runs from the bottom up. Apparently this one, that's why there's so many tracks on this rotor. It runs from the top down for the power. So I'm going to reassemble this, and I got to run hot glue on it. And I'm getting another delivery, probably more parts. I'll be right back. And I'll be back in a moment to with this thing mostly reassembled so I can see if we actually got lights in motion. Well, here we go. You can see the lights are on. These are on. You can see them flashing in my hand. Because it's not fully assembled. There you go. A little bit better reflection of the lights. They're on beat to the music. It's hard to tell, but these are going up and down like they're supposed to. It does have a little hitch, so one of the gears might be bad. So it's just finger tight, so I can take it back apart. But we have all the lights, we have the motion, we have the sound. Just a broken track. So if yours dies unexpectedly and you unplug the motor and it still doesn't work, you may have to take the bottom off and check the tracks. Regardless if it's this piece or not, if you just have a piece. So, but that's where it's at. So I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew this again, turn it off, turn it down, unscrew this, check the gears. Now I know everything works, and see what the hitch is. The hitch could be anything from an alignment issue when I reassembled it, or I think one of the tracks, or excuse me, one of the gears is cracked. I'm just checking the characters to make sure none of these characters going up and down are binding, because that's also a possibility. Nope, they're all moving free and clear. They're all going up and down like they're supposed to. Wow, it has a strobe light effect. That was interesting. So yeah, I'm going to pop this back apart, check the gears again, because I didn't examine them closely because it didn't turn on. But like I said, she did send parts, so I have the gear kit and the belt. So I'll open it up and probably refresh it, and then put it back together, and then I'll film it from the side where you can see this big thing and get an idea what it looks like if you've never seen one in person or never watched a promotional video for it. So also, this circuit board was laying flat originally. It actually has grooves to hold it straight up and down. And I know it'll clear that big old tent top. So I'm not sure why they did it, but I just have it in the clip so it doesn't move around. I mean, if it has to be glued flat, it has to be glued flat. I don't care. I just thought it was strange that they actually have a bracket for the circuit board that they're not using. So, but anyway, bear with me. I'm going to pause it again. I'm going to take it apart, check the gears, see what the hitch is. If it's if it's an alignment issue, a broken gear, if it's a bad roller, I don't know if I have any. I'll have to check. The rollers are on the bottom. Maybe one of the rollers isn't rolling. I'm also going to re-lubricate it, so when I open it back up, I'm going to use some of the Super Lube that you can also get from Mr. Christmas or Happy Holiday Parts, and make sure that it's not dry, and we'll go from there. So there we go. Broken solder track was the big issue. So, all right, I am going to be back in just a moment. All right, it's all back together. So we're going to turn it on. Turn it down. So if you notice, the center is multicolored. Now it's all the same color. That's what that switch does. And then this switch is the different types of music. And this switch makes the light steady or flash with the music. And then I'll pan up a little bit so you can see the flags are going up and down, and all the balls on the top are lit. So I actually kind of like it with the colored centerpiece versus the solid orange. I think it's just too much orange. That's just me. But I like that. Flashing lights are cool, but I can see why they get annoying after a while, because on some of the beats they flash like a strobe light, like that. So, yeah, it's a cool piece. As far as repairing it though, just go up under the lip, remove the screws, 8 of them, and then carefully pop the top up after you remove the flags, just the outer row, not the inner row, and twist them. So 2 hands hold the shaft, and then twist the ball back and forth until you break the little thin glue back. Glue, adhesive, whatever they use. Break it free and then slide it off. Pop the top, pull the wire out of the plug, and then you have access to the entire mechanism under the top, so it's not too hard to deal with. You have the motor and the distribution board, a secondary circuit board which controls the flashing lights. And I think it also controls the colored lights, since everything runs to the top and then runs right back down. It's kind of strange. Instead of using the bottom board to control it, they have that secondary board up top. The bottom board does do a lot of it because it's got the computer, the brain, but the secondary board has the pattern chip. So that chip down here talks to the chip up there, and then voila, you now have your flashing lights. Your colored lights, the switch runs here and then goes up to the distribution board and then back down. So the colored light is just affected by this switch here, and then the main board in the bottom. But as far as it goes, the jerkiness has been taken care of. When I screwed the nut down, this plate wasn't centered. So if you don't have it centered, the wheels will drive on the outside edge of the track. And the outside edge of the track has 2 casting reinforcements, and it goes ta-dunk, ta-dunk, and that's what it was doing. So when you put it together, make sure it's centered, because there is slop in the barrel, meaning that if that top nut in here is loose, this barrel can be offset, so it's not centered on the platform. And not the greatest design, but once you center it, it works fine, as you can see. The mechanical noise you hear are the horses going up and down, or reindeer, lion, polar bear, because you got all sorts of little creatures in here going up and down. So it's a nice piece. Like I said, I'm not a big Christmas guy, but I would have a piece like this because I like the fact that it has all the different lighting options. I'm a big light fan. I like lights. So here's just a close-up or just the top, so you can see the flags and the flashing lights, and then the lights inside the every other panel, and every panel in between has pictures of animals that are right here. And here's so you can get a better look at the animals again. What's also kind of nice about this carousel is a lot of them, if you notice, has one stationary like sled, and it's kind of nice to see a carousel that doesn't have that. That every single pole has a moving piece. Again, a lot of carousels cheap out on that, probably because of the friction in the motor. And then there's the switches all in place, and your volume off on switch. So well, there you go. It's not too hard of a piece to get into once you know the trick, which is removing the flags and not the top piece. So this carousel is different than the rest. Once you get that off, everything that you should have to work on will be in the top only. You shouldn't have to work down here unless it's similar to this, where there's absolutely no power. And then in that case, check the tracks. And like I said, it's super rare. So this technically didn't require any parts, just some solder. But because she sent the gear and the belt, I didn't replace the gears because they're fine. The belt was fine, but I still replaced it because she sent it. And that way it has a fresh belt. Because it is an older piece. According to the owner, it's never been used. First time out of the box, and it didn't work. So, from sitting, that could have been a corrosion on the board. I have no idea, but it came right off with a little alcohol. And as you can tell, we have a functioning carousel. So, thanks for watching this long one. Kind of a unique repair compared to some of the other ones I've done. It took a little bit more time just to trace everything back, but it's fixed. I'll let it run like I normally do. I usually let these things run for about a half an hour just to make sure. And then I'll turn it off, put it back in this box, and get it ready to ship back. So hopefully this is educational, and if you've never seen this piece and seen the different options, I hope this helped. If I ever find one that's not $300 or near it, because that's what they go for, I might consider getting one just because I like the lights. But other than that, there you go. So this was the Mr. Christmas flag carousel, and that is how you open it up and trace your problems. Hopefully this will help you if you have one or one similar to this. But out of all the carousels I've done, this is the first one that you have to unscrew the bottom to get the top off. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Till the next one.